Many sports in Ireland, including greyhound racing, receive state funding. We share the concern of many who have expressed deep unease about the welfare of greyhounds bred for racing. We welcome any progress which has been made to enhance the welfare of greyhounds, but see any current measures only as a first step on a very long road. There is a long way to go before anyone can safely say that welfare issues have been addressed to everyone's satisfaction. The Labour Party has for many years consistently called for higher standards of animal welfare in many areas of Irish society, including in relation to progress which has been made to advance the welfare of greyhounds. Since 2010, the Labour Party has endeavoured to make the greyhound racing sector operate on a revenue-neutral basis by ensuring that a percentage of the funding raised through the betting tax is used to support greyhound racing. That situation now exists in reality. The Labour Party does not support removing state funding for greyhound racing at this time because we are fearful that any defunding now would lead to a gradual resumption of a regime that heretofore allowed for practices that were not subject to any proper scrutiny. The Horse and Greyhound Fund gives the taxpayer power. It puts the taxpayer in the position of scrutineer of all welfare practices. I would be very reluctant to remove that power at a time when there has never been a greater public eye on this sector. We will continue to support further measures to enhance the welfare of greyhounds. In particular, I welcome the fact that 10% of the state funding given to greyhound racing is spent exclusively on the care and welfare of greyhounds. This is a positive first step, but it should not be the end point. I welcome the fact that the governing body of the sport, Horse and Greyhound Fund, has been implementing a care and welfare programme. But the government amendment, I have to say, is a cut and paste job based on a Horse and Greyhound Fund briefing note. And the government amendment does nothing to speak for the sustainability of the greyhound sector. One of the fundamental issues is whether the board of Horse and Greyhound Fund enjoys the confidence of the wider public and of its own stakeholders on delivering on the agenda of animal welfare and for the sustainability of the sector. We would contend that the only way to ensure confidence is to see tangible improvements beyond the measures that have been implemented so far. For instance, we would like to see evidence of a pipeline of more care centres similar to the one in Tipperary being rolled out nationwide. If we saw evidence of a second centre emerging, then that might build some confidence. If 10% of the fund is to be designated for welfare and rehoming, this should, if you do the back of the envelope calculation, amount to €1.9 million. That's a significant pot of money that would not be available if the funding is to be cut or phased out over time. I put it to this House that public trust in the sector and in the administration of the sector is very low, and recent exposure of the industry is proof of that. And the only way to restore that trust is to see an even greater evidence base of a further rollout of care centres across the country and clear evidence of rehoming. Not only does the public demand this, but so too do owners and trainers across the country. Greyhound owners, in my experience, are intelligent people who know instinctively that the future of their sector, which, it must be stated, is an economically loss-making sector, is dependent on a transparent and world-class welfare and rehoming programme that subjects itself to 100% traceability. Every trainer that I have spoken to with is looking forward to the traceability regime, and they accept it with open arms. Such a regime is dependent on a governance structure that ensures that, whatever public money is spent, it is subject to the type of rigorous oversight such as we witnessed when Deputy Alan Kelly had the sector in his sights at the Public Accounts Committee. We need to see further evidence of the rollout of the traceability system, because until such time as that is given effect, doubts will remain. If we look at the fund itself, we would point out that the 2010 Labour proposal has become practice. Back then, we proposed that any funding of the Horse and Greyhound Fund should be revenue neutral. We welcomed the increase in the betting tax, and in 2019 that yielded €95 million. We feared that any defunding of the greyhound sector, such as being proposed in the many emails that I have received on this matter, would force animal welfare gains backwards. We contend that the amount of money given to the Horse and Greyhound Fund gives the taxpayer skin in the game in ensuring that welfare and traceability standards are met. I note that the motion does not refer to the horse racing industry, which, whether we like to say it or not, has serious welfare issues as well. If the fund is revenue neutral, I believe that we should bag the very small gains that have been made on welfare and traceability and use that funding to make further gains. I believe that the relevant Oireachtas Committee should ensure that those who are responsible for animal welfare within the horse and greyhound sectors be subject to rigorous and independent scrutiny on a regular basis. For instance, the statement by the board, and I quote, that the implementation of an extensive rehoming programme with over 1,300 greyhounds rehomed in 2020 to date, with assistance from the Irish Retired Greyhound Trust, should be subject to greater scrutiny. I understand that the traceability system, as to quote from their own lines as well, will ensure that important life events in the life of the racing greyhound, including birth, microchipping, registration, racing career, changes of ownership, trainer location, export, retirement and end of life, are accurately recorded. Again, this should be subjected to ongoing and rigorous scrutiny. The Social Democrats are right to shine a light on an important and vital sector which traverses both urban and rural life. Taking away its funding is not, in our view, the best way to bring these urgently needed changes about.